Hello and welcome to another episode of Melv Underground. I'm Melv, we are underground in the workshop, and today we're going to start a project on making a wood store for the garden. Winter is coming and it's time for us to prepare. So we need somewhere to store all our logs that we're going to use to burn in the log burner all through winter. So we're going to build it out of this 3x2 treated pine. We've got a load of these and bring down to the shop. We've got a few things we need to make this log store. First of all, it's got to fit into a corner of the garden just behind the door for the garage. So we've got some quite specific space constraints. One of the things I've also been told it has to do is I've got to match the slope of the roof for the garage. It's got to be the same as the slope of the roof on the shed. I've measured that out to about 2 to 1 and it looks like it probably should be reasonable. And finally, I just want to get as many logs in there as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring you in, I'm going to talk you through the design of what I've got in my head, and hopefully the final thing will end up looking something like that. Okay, so blank drawing board here. So it's going to be lean-to-ish. Oh god. So that's kind of what we're going to do, and then we'll just have our logs in here, and we'll probably end up with, I think, by the looks of it, probably space for 2 logs deep. So we'll end up kind of having 2 piles. Front and the back pile. Okay, so first thing we're going to work on today is this kind of A-frame here. So we're going to have, with an angle cut, 2 legs and then 2 kind of side pieces. And I think where I'm going to do that is just have a kind of a half lap joint here. Across like that. So I think we'll probably do, I'll cut these all to length and then I'll start cutting out kind of a weird half lap or quarter lap joint for this, just to give it a little bit more strength than just screwing everything in place. Okay, so we've got everything cut to length, and this is roughly how it's going to look when it's laid out. So at the bottom here, we're just going to do a half lap joint here. Now the reason I'm not gone full length with this piece here is because I want the whole thing to be 850mm wide, and I've got 2.4 metre timber. So if I make these 800, I get 3 out of a piece. If I make them 850, I get 2 out of a piece. So I've gone for the cheap option, and these are just going to be a little bit too short, but it'll be on the back side, so hopefully no one will see it. So I'm going to cut the half lap joint for this. Okay, so I've drawn out my half lap joint here. So what I'm going to do is just saw down these 2 lines here, and then just hog out the rest of the waste in here with a chisel. Now this end, we're going to do a similar half lap joint here, just for this top piece, but this will obviously be at an angle, and we do have enough wood to make this one go all the way along. Okay, so we've cut all our joinery and we're ready to glue the first of these A-frames up together. Now originally I was going to put this together, glue it, tighten up the screws almost, and then kind of shift it around until it was square. But I've just had an idea about what to do is I've clamped this leg onto the workbench, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry fit everything, and then I'm going to clamp that down using my 2 remaining clamps. Then I'll have both legs perfectly fixed, and I'll just, with a lot less stress, be able to glue and screw these 2 cross pieces. And then I'll leave it for about 10 minutes to make sure everything's set off, unclamp, and then I'll do the next A-frame. Now usually, if you're making a square kind of frame, it's quite easy to check if it's square by measuring the diagonals of the frame that you're making. However, I don't have a square frame, so what I've done is I've just marked 2 marks on each of these legs that are the same distance from this bottom piece, and then just by checking the measurement from there to that corner and there to that corner and making sure they're equal, I can make sure that this is square without having an actual square frame to work off of. Okay, so because we don't have a square frame, I've also got to check for parallelism as well as squareness. Otherwise I could end up with a non-parallel where the diagonals are equal, which would be all kinds of squiffy. This is now good. I'm going to clamp it down and then we're going to get screwing. Okay, so we've got both A-frames assembled and it's time to start the final assembly. I've gone outside for this because the corridor to the workshop isn't big enough for me to carry this back through. So I'm just doing a little bit of a dry fit, and then I've realised that a couple of the half-lap joints aren't quite big enough, so I'm doing a little bit of final fitting. Time to do a bit of a final assembly. And then just check everything for square, and then I'll start screwing and gluing all of the cross pieces. One thing I have done is on these cross pieces you can see the lines going across the beams. Those are dados I put in to house the side supports, side slats, just to stop the logs from falling out of each side. So what I'll do is I'll show you how I've done those right now. Okay, now the cross pieces are glued. I'm just going to start putting these side slats in. I'm screwing and gluing these. Some of them need a little bit of hammering in just to get them in place. Okay, and we're done. As you can see, it is a rainy day in autumn, and that's exactly what we built this for, is to keep the logs dry while still letting it have a good airflow to dry these logs out. Now, what's changed since the last video is I put a roof on. I was kind of umming and ahhing about what to do, and I decided to go with this featheredge stuff. From what I've seen online, for it to be properly waterproof with featheredge, you want a lot more overlap and a lot steeper than what I've got here. But I'm just going to do it for now and see how it kind of goes. The other thing I've added is at the bottom here, we've got just a couple of boards just to stop any splashing from the ground from getting on the logs and getting the bottom bits wet, which is what I found out last year when I had just kind of an improvised stack. I've had it up for a couple of weeks now. We've had one day of really, really bad weather, and I did find that some of the lower down logs getting a little bit wet on the ends. So what I might do, as we'll probably have all of this stuff over winter, is I might come up with a little bit of a featheredge kind of shield just to stop the worst of the weather getting to it. And it's probably not going to dry too much over winter anyway, so I'm not too worried about restricting the airflow. So that's this project done. I probably over-engineered some of the joints, but only time will tell if that was worth it. And it's been a pretty fun project. Hopefully you've got some ideas if you're planning on doing something the same. Thanks for watching. As always, I'm Melv, and this has been Melv Underground. I'll see you next time.